The silent gathering. The galaxy was always bustling with activity, filled with distant star systems, massive fleets, and powerful empires. It was a place where the strong ruled and the weak struggled to survive. Among the many powers, the Galactic Council stood at the top, a collection of the most influential species in the universe. They believed they had control over everything, every planet, every fleet, every corner of the galaxy. But deep within the shadows of Jupiter, the largest planet in the solar system, something was quietly stirring, something the Galactic Council never expected. The Galactic Council was busy with a war that was slowly brewing between two great empires. The Charon Dominion, a vast and powerful faction, had been clashing with the Colmar Alliance for years. The Council was neutral, trying to maintain peace, but they knew that the conflict would eventually escalate. What they didn't know was that while they were focused on this war, another force, hidden and silent, was preparing to change everything. The first signs of something unusual appeared in the form of a faint signal, barely noticeable, detected by a few listening posts around Jupiter. At first, it seemed like a glitch, a harmless flicker in the vast silence of space, but it repeated. The signal became more distinct, more powerful, and more frequent. In the Galactic Council's command center, the signal was initially ignored. They had bigger problems to deal with. Star systems on the brink of collapse, fleets on the move, and the delicate balance of power. Yet something about the signal caught the attention of Commander Zoltra, one of the Council's sharpest officers. Zoltra, known for her analytical mind, could not shake the feeling that the signal was important. "Sir, I recommend we investigate," Zoltra said, her voice calm but filled with urgency. The council member she addressed, a tall alien from the Raptor species, glanced at her with a raised brow. "It's probably nothing, Commander," the Raptor responded dismissively. "We have more pressing matters at hand. Do not waste resources on this." Zoltra hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "What if it's a new fleet? A new player in the galaxy? We don't know what it could be. It's better to check than ignore it." The Raptor Council member rolled his eyes. "You're overthinking it, Commander. Carry on with your usual duties. I will not authorize a diversion for a possible glitch." But Zoltra's instincts were sharp. She couldn't ignore the feeling that something big was coming. Something that could change everything. She quickly ordered a small team of technicians to trace the signal further, against the wishes of the Council. Days passed, and the signal grew stronger, clearer, and closer to Jupiter. Zoltra, along with her team, continued their investigation. They managed to trace the signal to a specific area in the moon system of Jupiter. But there was more. The signal was not just a faint noise. It was deliberate, a message, but the message was in a code unlike anything they had ever encountered before. It was Earth's code. The realization hit like a bolt of lightning. Earth, the homeworld of humanity, the place that had been thought to be nothing more than a backwater planet, insignificant in the grand scheme of the galaxy. Humanity had been quiet for years, staying under the radar of the Galactic Council. But this was different. Earth had always been seen as weak, primitive. Yet here was a message coming from their corner of the galaxy. A message the Council had no answers for. "Impossible," Zoltra muttered, staring at the screen. The humans. They couldn't have. Suddenly, her thoughts were interrupted by a loud alarm. The room shook slightly as the lights flickered. The technicians rushed to their consoles, trying to make sense of the data. The signal was no longer just a message. It was a fleet, a massive fleet, hidden deep within the moons of Jupiter, emerging slowly but steadily into view. "Commander, we have a fleet, and it's human," one of the technicians gasped, unable to believe what he was seeing. Zoltra's heart raced. She had spent years learning about the humans, studying their history, their rise from a simple planet to a space-faring civilization. Yet no one in the Council had ever taken their military strength seriously. They had always been seen as a minor power, their ships small and outdated, their technology primitive by galactic standards. But this fleet was something different. Is this some kind of trick? Zoltra whispered. What are they planning? The fleet, vast and silent, slowly emerged from the shadow of Jupiter's moons. The ships were unlike anything the Council had seen before. They were sleek, powerful, and heavily armed. Advanced cloaking technology kept them hidden for so long, but now they were in full view, and their arrival was anything but quiet. In the depths of the Galactic Council's command center, panic began to spread. Earth had been hiding something for all these years. The Council had no idea what this fleet was capable of. It was clear now that Earth had been preparing for something huge. Commander Zoltra was the first to speak, breaking the silence that had fallen over the room. We need to warn the Council. We need to find out what these ships are and what they want. But even as she said the words, she knew it was already too late. The fleet was moving, and there was no turning back now. The galaxy would soon find out what Earth had been hiding in the shadows of Jupiter for so long. The fleet emerges. The silence of space was shattered as Earth's hidden fleet began to emerge fully from the moons of Jupiter. The massive warships, sleek and dark, glided through the vast expanse of space with terrifying grace. They had been lying in wait, hidden in the shadows of Jupiter for years. Now, their time had come, and the galaxy would never be the same. Commander Zoltra stared in disbelief at the fleet on her screen. There were hundreds of ships, all perfectly coordinated, all moving with purpose. She had studied Earth's history, its struggles, and its rise to power. Yet nothing had prepared her for this moment. The humans had been quiet, almost invisible to the rest of the galaxy. Their technology had always been considered outdated, their fleets small and insignificant. But now, in the shadow of the largest planet in the solar system, they had built something far beyond what anyone had imagined. How could we have missed this? Zoltra muttered to herself. She quickly ordered her technicians to track the ships and analyze their capabilities. Every piece of data she received only deepened her shock. These ships weren't just advanced. They were revolutionary. They were a stark reminder of humanity's hidden potential. The humans had spent years building up this fleet, quietly developing technology that could rival the greatest empires in the galaxy. Now it was clear that they were no longer the weak, forgotten species the Council had once believed them to be. Earth had kept its secret for too long, and now the Council had no choice but to face the reality. On the other side of the galaxy, the Galactic Council was in full emergency mode. News of the fleet's emergence spread like wildfire through the Council's ranks. The high-ranking members of the Council, composed of representatives from various species and empires, gathered in a large command room. They were all shocked by the sudden appearance of Earth's fleet, but no one was more stunned than Councillor Moran, a veteran diplomat of the Galactic Coalition. "I warned you all," Councillor Moran said, his voice trembling with a mix of anger and fear. "I told you that humanity was not what it seemed, but no one listened. Now we're paying the price for our arrogance." The Council had underestimated Earth for centuries. They had written off humanity as a minor player, a species not worth considering. The humans had always been independent, doing their own thing without much concern for galactic politics. But this fleet was a statement. It was proof that Earth had been preparing for something far bigger than anyone had anticipated. Back at the command center, Zoltra was already formulating a plan. She knew that the Galactic Council would need information, and fast. She ordered her team to deploy drones to get a closer look at the fleet. The drones, small and agile, would provide real-time data and footage of the ship's movements. Zoltra watched the screens closely, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. The ships were equipped with advanced weapon systems, far beyond what the Council had ever expected from Earth. As the drones moved closer, the fleet's ships began to power up, their engines humming with a low, menacing sound. The display on Zoltra's screen flickered briefly, then showed a holographic message coming from one of the ships. The message was simple, but it sent chills down Zoltra's spine. "We are Earth. Prepare to face the consequences of your underestimation." Zoltra read the message again. The words were clear, and the meaning was even clearer. Earth wasn't just making a statement. They were preparing for war. And the Galactic Council had no idea what they were up against. Zoltra immediately transmitted the message to the Council. As the hologram appeared before the Council's leaders, the room fell silent. Every leader, from the towering Ractor to the shimmering Crolian, watched in disbelief as the words from Earth echoed throughout the room. Councillor Miran slammed his fist on the table. "This is madness. We cannot ignore this any longer. Earth has declared war, and we must respond." But the tension in the room was palpable. The Council had no idea how to respond. They had no plans in place for Earth's sudden rise to power. The situation was slipping out of their control faster than anyone could have predicted. On the surface, Earth's government was in a state of heightened alert. President Sarah Hayes, the leader of the United Earth Government, was informed of the situation as soon as the fleet was deployed. She had always known that Earth's hidden fleet would one day play a crucial role in the future of humanity, but she hadn't expected it to come so soon, or with such overwhelming force. She stood before her generals and strategists, her face grim as she looked at the holographic maps of the galaxy. The plan had been in motion for years. Every ship, every weapon, every system had been designed with the goal of one day facing the Galactic Council. Humanity had been underestimated for far too long. Now it was time to show the galaxy the true strength of Earth. "We have waited for this moment," President Hayes said, her voice firm. "The time has come to make our mark in the galaxy. No more hiding. No more being ignored. We are Earth, and we will not be overlooked any longer." The fleet began to move again, slowly but surely, as it positioned itself at the edge of the solar system. They were not in a rush. They had the advantage of surprise, and that, above all else, was the most dangerous weapon of all. As Zoltra watched from the Galactic Council Command Center, she couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy would never be the same again. Earth had revealed its hidden fleet, and the battle lines were drawn. The fate of the galaxy now rested on the decisions made in this moment. The Galactic Council had underestimated humanity for too long, and now they would face the consequences. The tide of war had shifted, and it was Earth's turn to lead. The first strike. The stars outside the Galactic Council's command center flickered like distant beacons, but inside, the atmosphere was thick with unease. Zoltra, still shaken by the revelation of Earth's hidden fleet, stood before the Council, her eyes focused on the holographic projection. It was only a matter of time before the humans made their move, and no one in the room knew what to expect. "Are we ready for this?" Councillor Moran's voice echoed in the quiet room. His usual composure was gone, replaced by a cold, hard edge. "If we don't act quickly, Earth's fleet will have the upper hand." The Council members exchanged tense looks. They had underestimated Earth before, and now they realized the consequences of that mistake. Earth wasn't just a fledgling species, it was a rising power, and they had more than just military might. They had determination, and perhaps most terrifying of all, they had the element of surprise. Zoltra's fingers hovered above the controls, her mind racing. She knew Earth's fleet would be calculating their next move, and whatever it would be swift. Earth wasn't going to wait. They were going to take the first strike, and they were going to make it count. "Activate the defense grid," Moran ordered, his eyes scanning the room. "All fleets must be on high alert. We cannot afford to let them gain any more ground." Zoltra nodded and transmitted the order. The defense grid was vast and complex, designed to protect the heart of the Galactic Coalition from any major threats, but it was designed with the assumption that threats would come from the established powers, the warlords, the ancient empires, not from a small, seemingly insignificant planet like Earth. Outside the command center, across the galaxy, the first strike was already underway. Earth's fleet, now fully emerged from the shadow of Jupiter, moved with terrifying precision. Their ships, dark and stealthy, glided through the void with an eerie calm. It was as if they had been preparing for this moment for decades. The battle began with no warning. A single Earth ship, the Excalibur, emerged from the edge of the solar system, its massive engines igniting with a flash of light that cut through the darkness. A volley of ion blasts shot out, striking a nearby coalition reconnaissance ship. It wasn't even a fair fight. The Excalibur was powered by weapons that far outstripped anything the coalition had encountered before. The Excalibur's weapons were designed for maximum impact, blasts so powerful they could tear through the thickest of shields. The coalition's ship, unprepared for such an attack, crumpled under the assault, its hull cracking open with a devastating explosion. Zultra watched in horror as the first casualty of the war was registered. The coalition's surveillance systems detected a massive energy signature from Earth's fleet, a signal that they were ready to launch the next wave. Back on Earth, President Hayes stood at the heart of the operations center, her eyes locked on the holographic maps. The battle had begun, and Earth had struck the first blow. Now it was time to press the advantage. "The first strike has been made," she said to her generals, "but this is only the beginning. We have to keep up the pressure." The Excalibur and the other ships of Earth's fleet moved forward with calculated precision, their weapons now primed and ready to take on the coalition's larger, more established forces. It wasn't just about firepower. It was about strategy. Earth had the advantage of surprise, and they were going to make sure they didn't squander it. The Galactic Coalition, reeling from the unexpected attack, scrambled to respond. Their fleets were moving, but they were not coordinated. They had been thrown into chaos, and the humans were taking full advantage of that. Commander Zultra was now forced to lead the counterattack. She knew that Earth's fleet would not stop after their first strike. They were relentless. But she also knew that the coalition had something the humans didn't: experience. "I'll lead the counterattack from the front," Zultra said, her voice steady despite the panic within. "Prepare the warships. We cannot let them push us back further." The massive fleet of the Galactic Coalition began to maneuver, their ships drifting through the stars as they set up a defensive perimeter. Zultra's command ship, the Argon Star, led the charge, its weapons powering up as it moved toward Earth's fleet. The battle would soon escalate into something far more deadly. However, Zultra couldn't shake the feeling that Earth's forces were already one step ahead. Their first strike had been too precise, too well coordinated. The Excalibur was now in the midst of the battlefield, its weaponry flashing with deadly intensity. Earth wasn't fighting like a small, untrained force. They were fighting like they had been preparing for this moment for years. And that's exactly what they had done. For decades, Earth had spent time, effort, and resources secretly building up its military strength. Each ship, each weapon, each strategy had been carefully crafted to ensure that the day they were forced to fight would be one they would win. The Galactic War had begun, and Earth had already shown it was capable of flipping the tide of battle in an instant. Zultra's eyes narrowed as she watched the holograms update in real time. The battle was only just starting, but it was clear Earth was not here to play, and they had the power to change everything. As Earth's fleet made its next move, the tension in the Council's command room grew. The war had begun, and the fate of the galaxy now rested in the hands of those who had underestimated humanity for far too long. The first strike was only a taste of what was to come. The tides of war shift. The stars outside the galactic battlefield twinkled like distant witnesses to the unfolding chaos. Inside the command room of the Galactic Coalition, tension was mounting. Commander Zultra stood in front of the massive holographic map, her gaze fixed on the latest fleet movements of Earth's forces. "The humans are relentless," Zultra muttered, almost to herself. Her mind raced with strategies and countermeasures. But the truth was clear. Earth's fleet was unlike anything the Coalition had ever faced. What had started as a calculated attack now seemed to evolve into something far more dangerous. The humans had struck first, and now they were preparing for the next wave. "All units are in motion, Commander," a subordinate reported, breaking Zoltar's thoughts. "They're not slowing down. Earth's fleet is pushing forward faster than expected. Prepare the reinforcements. We need to respond quickly." Zoltar's voice was firm, but there was a slight tremor in it. She was the one chosen to protect the coalition, to lead its forces, and yet, for the first time in her long career, she wasn't sure they could win this fight. On Earth, the feeling of uncertainty was nowhere to be found. President Hayes stood confidently in the operations center, surrounded by generals, analysts, and strategists. The first strike had shaken the Galactic Coalition, but it wasn't enough. They had expected Earth's military might to be far weaker. Now they had learned a hard lesson. Earth's fleet was not to be underestimated. "We've only begun," Hayes said, her voice carrying a tone of unwavering resolve. "Our fleet is stronger than they think. Let's show them what we're capable of." Her orders were simple. Press the advantage. Earth's fleet was far from the Coalition's might, but it had something the Coalition lacked: resourcefulness. The humans had taken years to build their forces in secret. Now it was time for Earth to claim its place in the galactic hierarchy. The ships of Earth's fleet moved with a precision that could only come from years of covert preparation. They had faced battles on Earth, had endured wars and invasions, but this was a different kind of warfare. This wasn't just about the land or the air. It was about control over the entire galaxy. As the Excalibur led the charge, the rest of the fleet followed in perfect formation, each ship poised to strike at any moment. Earth's military technology, much of it unseen by the galaxy until now, was a force to be reckoned with. The Coalition's advanced shielding systems faltered under the intensity of the attacks, their vessels shaking under the force of the first barrage. "I knew it wouldn't be easy, but this is something else," said General Connor, looking at the battle unfolding on the screens in front of him. "We have them on the back foot." Zoltar's fleet was regrouping, but they were out of sync. The humans had known how to strike, how to catch them off guard. The Galactic Coalition had been complacent, and now it was facing a new enemy, one that knew the value of patience, preparation, and cunning. "This is bad," Zoltar said, clenching her fists. "We've lost too many ships already. The Coalition cannot afford another mistake." But Earth wasn't finished yet. A second wave of attack ships, faster and more agile, surged forward. They didn't wait for the enemy to regroup. They struck immediately, catching the Coalition off guard once more. The Excalibur was now in the heart of the battle. Its weapons fired in rapid succession, cutting through the Coalition's ships with deadly accuracy. A massive Coalition warship, the Titan Star, attempted to retaliate, but it was too late. The Excalibur launched a full salvo of its newly developed energy missiles, and within seconds, the Titan Star was reduced to a massive explosion, debris scattering in all directions. Zoltra could only watch in horror as her fleet was torn apart. How did they do this? How did Earth manage to build such power? The truth hit her like a blow to the chest. Earth had been preparing for this moment for a long time. They had learned the lessons of war, adapted, and evolved. Now, Earth was not just fighting for survival, it was fighting for dominance. Zoltra's mind raced. She needed to call for reinforcements, but the question loomed over her: would it be enough? Even with reinforcements, could they turn the tide? Or had the Galactic Coalition underestimated Earth's fleet one final time? Back on Earth, the mood was tense but determined. President Hayes stood tall in the command center, her gaze fixed on the screen showing the galactic battlefield. Earth had not only survived the first strike, it had delivered a blow that had shattered the illusion of invincibility that the Galactic Coalition had held for so long. "We have them on the ropes," Hayes said, turning to her generals. "But we need to keep the pressure on. They'd never seen humanity's true power before. We'll make sure they never forget it." Her generals nodded in agreement. They had made history today. But this battle was far from over. Earth's fleet would not stop until the Galactic Coalition had been forced to recognize humanity's place in the galaxy. The war was no longer about defending Earth. It was about rewriting the rules of the galactic order. And humanity, with its hidden fleet and newfound power, was ready to lead the charge. Zoltra stared at the battlefield from her command ship, the Argon Star, as Earth's ships pushed forward once again. Her mind raced as she tried to come up with a plan to stop them. But there was one thing she knew for sure now. This war was far from over. And if Earth's fleet kept fighting like this, the Galactic Coalition's reign over the galaxy might very well come to an end. The tides of war had shifted, and Earth was no longer just a small, insignificant planet. It had become a force to be reckoned with. The true battle had just begun. The Coalition's desperation. The cosmic battlefield glowed with the aftermath of the fierce battle. Debris from destroyed ships floated in the vastness of space, remnants of a once mighty Galactic Coalition fleet now scattered across the dark void. The humans had struck harder and faster than anyone had anticipated, and now the Coalition found itself reeling. On the command deck of the Argon Star, Zoltra paced back and forth. The lights flickered from the damage sustained in battle, but her sharp eyes never left the holoprojector displaying the remaining fleet positions. Her hands were clenched into fists at her sides, her mind working furiously to find a solution. "This cannot be happening," Zoltra muttered, the weight of defeat heavy in her voice. Her pride, her confidence, had been shattered in mere moments. The humans, Earth, had done the impossible. Their fleet, once thought to be underpowered, had overwhelmed the might of the Galactic Coalition's most advanced warships. Zoltra couldn't grasp how they had done it. She had underestimated them. And now, the Coalition was on the brink of collapse. A communications officer stepped forward. "Commander Zoltra, we've received an urgent transmission from the Supreme Council." Zoltra didn't reply immediately. The Supreme Council's decision was critical. Without reinforcements or a strategic shift, they would lose the war. It was a grim thought, but the humans had already proven themselves more resourceful and resilient than the Coalition could have imagined. She nodded, signaling the officer to open the channel. The hologram of the Supreme Council flickered to life before her. The projection of the elderly counselor, his wrinkled face marked by decades of galactic leadership, appeared in front of her. His eyes were cold, calculating, as he spoke. "Commander Zoltra, we are aware of the situation. The Coalition has been caught off guard, but this cannot be allowed to continue. We will provide reinforcements immediately." Zoltra barely suppressed the urge to roll her eyes. Reinforcements. It sounded promising, but at this point, the damage had already been done. They had underestimated Earth's fleet so thoroughly, the human forces had gained the momentum. What could reinforcements possibly do now? "With all due respect, Counselor," Zoltra replied, "the situation is worse than anticipated. The humans have proven to be more than capable. Their ships are faster, more efficient, and their tactics unpredictable. How will additional ships change the course of this battle?" The counselor's expression remained unchanged. "You will hold the line, Commander. You will not let Earth's fleet push us any further. The Coalition's military strength is vast, and their pride is great. Do not forget that." The line went silent as the hologram flickered out. Zoltra stood still, her thoughts swirling. Earth's fleet wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. It was fighting for respect, for recognition as a true power in the galaxy. She could feel the pressure mounting, knowing that if she didn't turn the tide soon, the Coalition's fate would be sealed. She turned back to the tactical display. Earth's fleet had suffered some losses, but they were far from broken. The Excalibur, the human flagship, remained in the heart of the battle, and the humans showed no signs of backing down. Their ships, though fewer in number, fought with a precision and ferocity that sent a chill through Zoltra's spine. They weren't just fighting for Earth, they were fighting for something bigger. And that made them all the more dangerous. "All units," Zoltra barked, her voice rising with the urgency of the situation. "Prepare for a counteroffensive. We can't afford to let them press forward any further. The reinforcements are on their way." Until they arrive, we need to hold the line. Her officers scrambled to carry out her orders, but the nagging doubt in her mind refused to fade. The Coalition's forces were stretched thin. Earth's fleet had already gained too much ground. Even with reinforcements, how much longer could they keep up the fight? On Earth, President Hayes stood confidently, her face illuminated by the glow of multiple holographic displays. The tide of the war had shifted dramatically, and now, humanity had the upper hand. But she wasn't foolish enough to believe that victory was assured. The Coalition would come back with everything it had. "We've got them on the ropes, but they're not done yet," Hayes said, her voice steady but filled with determination. "We need to strike hard and fast. Every moment we waste gives them a chance to recover." Her generals nodded in agreement, each one processing the data streaming in from the front lines. Earth's fleet had made significant progress, but the true battle was still ahead. The Coalition would not surrender easily. It would be a fight to the finish. "I want the Excalibur and the others to lead the charge," Hayes continued. "We're going to keep them on the defensive until reinforcements arrive. But we'll need every ship, every fighter at full capacity. We've come too far to back down now." Her voice was filled with resolve, and the room fell silent as everyone prepared for the next phase of the battle. Earth had taken the initiative, but the fight was far from over. The Coalition had underestimated Earth's power. Now they had no choice but to face it. And as the battle raged on, the next move would be crucial. Would Zoltra's forces be able to turn the tide? Or was the Galactic Coalition doomed to fall, unable to recover from its own hubris? The universe was watching, and the war was far from decided. What had started as an invasion was now a fight for survival, with Earth determined to prove its place in the stars. The next moves would determine the fate of the galaxy. The tide turns. The space surrounding the battlefield was nothing short of chaotic. The wreckage of ships, both Coalition and human, floated aimlessly in the void, casting long shadows in the cold light of distant stars. The battle was far from over, but both sides had suffered significant losses, and the outcome was now uncertain. For the first time, the Galactic Coalition was on the defensive, its vast military might challenged by the human fleet that had emerged from the shadows of Jupiter. Zoltra paced back and forth on the bridge of the Argon Star, her mind working furiously. The reinforcements had arrived, but the human fleet had already shifted its tactics. They were no longer just responding to attacks. They were predicting and countering, moving with a coordination that was both surprising and terrifying. The humans were quick learners. They had adapted far faster than anyone had expected. "Commander," one of her officers said urgently, "we have a new development on the front lines. The Excalibur has shifted its position. They're making a bold move. It seems like they're preparing for a full-on offensive." Zoltra's heart sank. The Excalibur, the human flagship, had been at the center of the Coalition's most intense attacks. If it was moving into an offensive position, that meant they were willing to risk everything for the win. The humans were no longer fighting simply for survival. They were fighting for dominance. "Ready the fleet," Zoltra ordered, her voice firm but laced with frustration. "If they want to play this game, we'll show them how it's done. Prepare for a counterattack. We'll meet their bold move head-on. No retreat." The Argon Star and its fleet of Coalition ships shifted into battle formation, their weapons charged and ready. As the ships readied themselves for the battle to come, Zoltra could only wonder how long they could keep up the fight. Earth's fleet was small, but its resolve was unmatched. They had managed to outsmart the Coalition time and time again. And now they were pushing back with a force that even the Coalition wasn't prepared for. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Hayes stood in the war room, surrounded by her top commanders. The mood was tense, but there was a sense of anticipation in the air. The reinforcements had arrived, and now the real fight was about to begin. This was the moment they had been waiting for, the moment to prove that humanity belonged in the stars, that they could stand toe-to-toe with the most powerful forces in the galaxy. All ships are in position, General Clark reported, his voice calm but serious. The Excalibur is ready to launch its assault. We have the coalition on the ropes. If we strike now, we can end this war in our favor. Hayes nodded, but her expression remained grave. Don't underestimate them. They'll fight back with everything they have. We've seen that already. But it's our time now. We're no longer just a footnote in the galaxy's history. We're a force to be reckoned with. The room fell silent as the holographic map of the battlefield illuminated in front of them. The human fleet was smaller in number, but the humans had one advantage the coalition could not match: ingenuity. They had learned from each battle, adapted their tactics, and now they were prepared for whatever the coalition would throw at them. The tide was turning in their favor, and they were not about to let up. "Initiate the offensive," President Hayes ordered. As the words left her mouth, the human fleet surged forward. The Excalibur, leading the charge, unleashed its heavy firepower. The sleek, powerful ships of Earth's fleet darted in and out of the coalition's line of defense, taking out key targets with precision strikes. The humans were moving like a well-oiled machine, hitting the coalition's weakest points with brutal efficiency. Zoltra watched in disbelief as the humans pushed forward, their attacks relentless. The coalition's ships were falling one after another, unable to keep up with the speed and precision of the human fleet. It was clear that the balance of power was shifting, and Zoltra had no idea how to stop it. She had underestimated Earth's might, and now she was paying the price. "All units, counterattack." Zoltra barked, but her voice lacked the conviction it once had. The damage had already been done. The coalition's forces were stretched too thin, and their ships were no match for the well-coordinated human assault. Every move the coalition made seemed to be anticipated by the humans before it even happened. On the Excalibur, General Clark watched the unfolding chaos with a sense of grim satisfaction. The coalition was crumbling, and their once feared fleet was falling apart under the relentless assault of humanity's ships. The general turned to President Hayes, who stood with a determined look on her face. "It's happening, Madam President. We're breaking through," he said, his voice filled with pride. Hayes nodded, but she didn't allow herself to smile. The fight wasn't over yet, and she knew that the coalition would never give up without a brutal struggle. But for the first time, it felt like victory was within reach. Humanity had proven its strength, and now they would finish what they had started. The coalition was on the brink of collapse, but the final blow had yet to fall. Would humanity's fleet be able to push through and deliver the final strike, or would the coalition find a way to regroup and retaliate? The fate of the galaxy rested on the edge of a knife, and only time would tell who would emerge victorious.